All right, good morning, everybody. We finally had our CPI data print, which was much lower than expected. For CPI at 0.1%, they were expecting 0.3. CPI typically being about 0.1% off is not that big of a deal. 0.2%, that's pretty low. CPI month over month, 0.1. They were expecting 0.2. CPI year over year, 2.4 over 2.5. So every single print was lower than expected. The core CPI was lower than expected by 0.2. Later today, we still have a bond auction, which should be decent impact. That's around 1 p.m. And then we have the federal budget balance around 2 p.m. So far, it's been a pretty muted move, to be honest. We were expecting a larger move. I was expecting this to get to like 6,100 on a CPI print like this. My bearish, I was basically looking for like 50 points in either direction. So going from the value high around like 40, we were looking for 90 to 100. And then going to the downside, we were looking for around the 50s, possibly the 50s to like the 70s. But so far, it's pretty damn lackluster, not really moving too much. Now, there were some other headlines. They were saying that the trade deal with China is finalized. I don't believe they've like talked too much about the exact details, but I believe the talks are over. So both of those headlines combined, and we're still only up about 20 to 30 points, which is kind of interesting. Now, normally, with these CPI prints, they do like to retest the spike, right? We don't really have too much of a spike to retest today. So this candle right here would be the spike candle. We have retested most of it. So we only have like a little piece left going down to 52, possibly 42, which lines up with a retest of that value high. And on NASDAQ, same thing. We've already retested a lot of that spike. We still have this little piece right here, which goes from around 22,000 down to 950, which also lines up with that retest of that value high. So overall, very muted move. Not really seeing a whole lot of action so far. We'll see if they like to come in on the actual open. Not sure what's going on with my trading view here. Doesn't want to load. Any day now, trading view. Might have to restart it. There we go. Okay, so looking at our trade plan, this was from last night. And we are probably going to keep the trade plan the same. Let's adjust it a little bit, actually. So we're going to say holding above this upper value, which is around 55. So we'll say 60, just a little bit above that. We'll still look for 100, but we'll also throw in the overnight high at around 75. And then to the downside, we will say holding below this upper node, so we'll say around 55-ish. We're going to look for that value retrace, which lines up with the CPI retrace as well, down to 17. As of right now, we have a little bit of a capital B. We have a lower node and an upper node. Bit of a double distribution. The secondary node is on the high, so our bias would be a bullish bias as long as it's holding above that upper node. All right, sorry, I was just writing up the trade plan. Basically what I said on stream, the capital B, we need to protect that upper node. So this is what we were aiming for yesterday with this CPI. We almost got our 150 area. It stalled out around 100. So even on NASDAQ, seeing a bit of a muted CPI move here. So we will say holding above 22,000. We're still going to look for that 130. And then around 280. Holding below 22,000. We're going to look for yesterday's value around 928 and 808. All right, there's the trade plan. So you can see right here, that's that CPI spike, very low delta. Slowly coming down and retesting it, which does line up with VWAP as well. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Roman, Jose, Backpacking Devil, Sil, Leo, Cotton, Max, Kim, Israel, Techie, SW. Good morning, Larry. Good morning, Blair. Good morning, Trevor, Unleashed, AT, Andreas, Ordinary, James, Vi. Good morning, Angelo. Good morning, JG, Fernando, Morris. Good morning, Bacon, Media. Lulu, Shay, Ronaldo. Appreciate you guys all being here. Good morning. Let me pin the trade plan for you. There you go. Want a Patriot, Leo? If you guys are just coming in, the CPI numbers, I'll say them again. Core CPI 0.1 over 0.3, down by 0.2%. CPI month over month 0.1 over 0.2. Year over year 2.4 over 2.5. So all three prints are lower than expectations. The core CPI is down by 0.2, which is a pretty big move for CPI. CPI is typically off by 0.1 to the upside or downside, so being off by 0.2 is pretty big. Which is why I'm very surprised the market is so muted. There was also a headline about the China talks being over. They've basically come to an agreement. They haven't released any exact details, I don't believe. But that should be coming out in the next few days. Yeah, what has been the change in the rates? Let's take a look. Did the data greatly impact the rates here? There's still only a 2.7%. Actually, no, sorry, that was the old one. Now it's 0. There's a 0% chance of a rate cut. There's actually a 0.2% chance of rates going up. That's funny. The July rate cut has gone up by 4%, now at 18.6. The possibility of a cut in July is still very low, but it has gone up a little bit with that CPI data. All right, let's see the actual reaction to the CPI here. The rate cut watch is on the CME. It's just called, I think it's called like Countdown to the FOMC. On the CME group site. Here's that pullback of the CPI print lining up with VWAP, so keep an eye on VWAP. Very typical to pull back the CPI spike. Doesn't always happen this fast. There is VWAP, pretty much retracing the entire CPI spike so far. Good morning, Moto. Robert, Boat, Ryder, TK, Future. Good morning, guys. Not finding a lot of buy pressure on VWAP here. Still decent amount of sellers. A little bit of buy pressure off VWAP now, trying to hold on to it on NASDAQ. They have taken over this node as a support node right on VWAP. Look at how active the large tapes are today. So like we were saying, the large traders were definitely waiting on CPI. The large tape was basically non-existent the last few days. You probably have more orders in the last hour than we had damn near the entire day yesterday. Want a Mihai OP? Cotton? Want a Robert? Not sure if I saw you earlier. Trying to lose this node on VWAP here, still fighting over it. A lot of sellers at 45 and 44. Looks like the sellers are winning this node. If they rebound back into 45, they need to continue to sell that level. The large tape is entirely bearish since the open here. All the large traders just selling, selling, selling. 500 contracts right on the open. Still battling over this node. The rebound is being sold. You don't want to see too much buy pressure back above 45, which we do see a bit here. 46 to 47, getting some buyers. Highest tick, I believe, was 47. Looks like they heard me about the large tape. Now the large tape turning pretty green. Big buyers at 47, 46 and a quarter. Buyers reclaiming that node. A lot of buy pressure back above 45. So basically that's exactly what you do not want to see when you have a rebound. So the sellers took that node, they rebounded back into it, and then he started building this massive bullish cluster here. A lot of buyers coming in at 46 and 47. Basically, see how green the tape is when it pulled back. You do not want to see that if you're trying to trade a rebound. Good morning, Joan. Yeah, Chain, his name is John Bollinger, I believe. I think Bollinger is his last name. He was pretty active when the crypto craze was going on, like the 2017, 2018. Okay, so we have filled in the CPI print on both ES and NASDAQ. We are so far protecting that VWAP. So to be honest, it just looks like a CPI fill-in. It does seem like it is still pretty bullish. If they can't hold below that CPI print, which is basically VWAP, then it's just going to continue back up. I'm guessing that the CPI print was very muted because typically CPI prints that are this strong, they lead to a possibility of rate cuts, right? But the Fed has been very determined to not cut rates right now. So CPI being low doesn't really matter. It has barely affected the rate cut cycle. It went up by what, 5%, 4%? They are battling over this VWAP. Very strong node here. A lot of delta coming in on NASDAQ to the downside. Big block on 45 to the downside as well. Well, that's just absorption, Scott. So that would just go in hand with absorption. Still battling over this node here. Stuck between the 24 EMA and VWAP. Responsive traders on both sides battling. No initiative pressure right here, not pressing this local high or the local low. Are you talking about like this spike right here? You took out the high on ES, but you didn't take it out on NASDAQ that we're looking at? Yeah. Just a little bit of a vertical chop there. The large tape is extremely active. The large tape highlights these orders when they come in at above 500. So all these highlighted ones are above 500. On TradingView, they both took out the high? Let me see. You might have your data wrong, because mine did not. Yeah, gaming, the momentum is very muted for both the China deal and the CPI. I think we're still seeing what I was talking about. I think it was yesterday we were talking about it. How there is somebody that's trying to hold the market down the last few days. You have some big sellers that are trying to hold us down for some reason. We've seen a lot of responsive, like bearish limit pressure over the last few days, which is a good reason, or it's another another example of this is the liquidity being so high. That typically raises liquidity, and our liquidity has been fantastic this week. It's been very high. Well, Zoe, those are completely different markets. I think people forget that just because it's a mini, like an MNQ or MES, it's not just following ES and NASDAQ. It is a completely different market. Now, by design, it should follow, but that doesn't mean it has to. It's not just like a copy and paste. It is it's its own literal market. It has its own liquidity, it has its own volume, it has its own traders. They are supposed to follow each other, so you have these algorithms, these bots that arbitrage. Okay, they have lost that node, and you can see that there are a lot of traders fighting over that node because they are being squeezed out now. Look at that delta spike. Probably a lot of stop orders down here. So now we are entering the value of yesterday, so keep an eye on that value retrace going from 39 down to 17. On NASDAQ, that would be basically right here down to 808. You could also keep an eye on the overnight low in the POC. Yeah, very common, Sola. Very common for the MES to, if you guys are using like high of day, low of day, or like high of 30-minute candle, low of 30-minute candle as your stop losses, very common for the micros to take out those levels, but the big contracts do not. And that's just a liquidity problem. The larger contracts have much, much, much higher liquidity. The big boys are trading the larger contracts much more, obviously. That's why when I tell you guys, if you are trading the micros, the MES, I would do pretty much 99% of your analysis on the larger contracts. Pretty much every single chart you have should be on the larger contracts, and you should just do your analysis on the larger contracts and trade the smaller contracts. With the exception of, like I just said, if you are targeting like high of day, low of day, or using the highs of candles, lows of candles, you have to be careful on that because those will be slightly different on MES or MNQ. So you'll have to look at those on the smaller contracts. But it's like a good example is for my European traders, you guys can trade CFDs. The United States traders can't trade CFDs, they're banned for the most part. It's like if you're trading a CFD and you're charting that CFD instead of charting what the CFD is based off of. You should be charting what it's based off of, right? All right, here's another pullback to this node, lacking delta down here, actually showing a very small bull div. Also showing a bull div on momentum as well. Well, Dab, if you want to be technical, like technically correct, when I say absorption, sometimes the term is actually exhaustion. I just say absorption for both terms so I don't confuse you guys. If the volume is falling off dramatically, it's not actually absorption, it's technically exhaustion. If the volume is rising rapidly and it's still not breaking through that level, that would be absorption. I teach them both as one concept because it doesn't really matter which concept you choose to call it. They are traded the same way for the most part. They are both indicating that that level is not being pushed in the direction they want to push it in, and it's indicating a reversal in momentum. Where the terms would need to be more accurate is if you're saying that people are trapped, like on a low, you can't really trap people with exhaustion because exhaustion means the volume is falling off very rapidly. There's not really any traders to trap down there. But if it's being absorbed, then you can trap traders down there because there is a very large amount of volume that is trapped on that low. Now, this example that we're looking at right now would be exhaustion. This would just be a proper tail. A proper tail falls off in volume very rapidly. Okay, once again, fighting over this node. This is the POC. So this is pretty much a coin flip. Both sides agree that this is a good price. We can see that because we have a lot of bearish delta below the node, and we have a lot of bullish delta above the node. They try to push away, failed. Try to push away, failed. Yeah, exactly what Sean said. Like, there could be a wall on one market, there could not be a wall on the other market, and that will cause a big difference in where the liquidity is being hunted. But yeah, even if I was trading the micros, my chart would look exactly the same, where everything is on the large contracts. The one exception is like when you're trading the micros, you want to have like at least one chart that's on the micro charts, like a price chart, so you can just see where those exact levels are that you're targeting. But yeah, for the most part, it's really not going to affect your trading. The only time it's going to affect your trading is what we just covered. If you're using like high a day, low a day stops on the micros, those are much more dangerous than on the large contracts. What you can do in that scenario is a little bit dangerous to do, but instead of like having your stop loss set on the micro on high of day, you can wait for it on the big contract to break high of day, and then you can close your trade. But if it just blows through high of day, then it's going to be dangerous, right? So you got to be careful. Okay, so earlier I said it was a battle between responsive traders, the buyers on VWAP, the sellers on the 24, and the initiative traders weren't really doing anything. Now the initiative traders are taking over. So we had the initiative sell pressure, ended up being weak. Now the buyers are taking over. We'll see if the buyers can actually build a node up here above this POC node. They need to establish a node, I'd say above 50 here. It was hard to cover that bull div because it was so fast, but that was a bull div on both momentum. You can see the momentum going up here. And we had a bull div on Delta. You did not have a bull div on NASDAQ. It was only on ES. The difference between ES and NASDAQ is very simple. It's just volatility. If you want to trade higher volatility, if you want to trade like faster moves, then you're going to prefer NASDAQ. If you want to trade something that's slower, that takes more time to play out, you're going to want to trade ES. That is pretty much the major difference. ES has a lot better liquidity, so it's a lot harder to push through the levels most of the time. It's a stickier price action. I mean, look at them right now. They're damn near candle by candle, the exact same pattern. So as far as like analysis and market structure and all that, they're pretty much the same. This week has been a little bit weird. They haven't been following each other exactly this week. Like right now, the big difference is we have a higher high on this 1 minute, and we kind of have a double top on NASDAQ. So they're slightly different. Yeah, I think you guys should just trade both of them, and you'll find out very quickly which one you like. If you like the fast one or if you like the slow one. I think with my style of trading, the slow one, aka ES, is way better. This isn't all NASDAQ traders, but I think NASDAQ appeals to the gamblers a lot more than ES. NASDAQ is like the gambling index where people are getting into trading for the wrong reasons and they think that they can get rich quick, and basically like the people that buy naked options, they don't really have significant strategies or anything. They're just trying to like get lucky and make as much money as they can. I think NASDAQ appeals to those traders a lot more. And NASDAQ also appeals to the people that are very good, consistent scalpers. I've traded NASDAQ a lot. I trade NASDAQ every now and then. I'd say I'm like 90-10. Like 90% of my trades are ES, probably like 10% are NASDAQ. But like I said, it's just not my style. I like holding my trades for a lot longer, and it's much easier to hold trades on ES. At the end of the day, like I say with everything in trading, it's personal preference. You guys will find out very quickly which one you like. So I recommend you guys trade both of them. Give them a shot and see which one you like. Like almost everything else in trading, there's not really a right or wrong. Just whatever works. What do you disagree with, Angelo? The gambling statement? I think that's pretty true. I don't think there's another index that is more appealing to like the gamblers. I think NASDAQ is like the best one. Maybe oil? Maybe Bitcoin, obviously. But there's not many people that trade Bitcoin on like the futures. As far as like people like us, like the prop traders, the retail guys. Well, that's why I said, Angela. I didn't say everyone that trades NASDAQ is a gambler. I said that if you are a gambler, if I'm getting into the market and I'm not trying to be like a long term trader, I just want to trade for a few years and make as much money as I possibly can and just give it a shot, throw some money at it and see if it works. You are pretty much going to NASDAQ every single time. I don't think any of those people would choose to trade ES. They would look at ES and they would fall asleep. Okay, so I said earlier they needed to build a node above 50. They're trying to. They don't really have a dominant node up here. There is a decent node at like 49.50. So they're still doing a good job holding it for now. Yeah, Venn diagram, exactly, yeah. More profitable is not the right way to say that. The right way to say that is, what's the word? It's not variation. There's a word I'm trying to think of that I lost. Um, the variance, the variance is higher on NASDAQ. I think that's the right word. Like if we're looking at the standard deviations, they have wider bands. NASDAQ has wider bands, right? You're going to lose more money, you're going to make more money. Yeah, leverage, volatility, exactly. Like all those terms are correct. It doesn't mean you're going to be more profitable overall. It just means like if you take the same exact trade on both, the leverage, the volatility, the variance, whatever you want to call it, on NASDAQ is going to be higher. So if you lose that trade, you'll probably lose more money on NASDAQ. If you win that trade, you'll probably make more money on NASDAQ. I don't remember if I'm on the beta version. I am on the... I'm on latest. Is latest the beta or is latest the regular one? I think it's the regular one. Pretty clean inverse head and shoulders here on NASDAQ needs to hold above that 22,000 level, which is also our trade plan level, funny enough. Yeah, oil is a very dangerous market for sure. I think traders that prefer oil as like their number one are people that really like following like global economic news, geopolitics. There's a lot of economic stuff that goes into oil. You got to watch like the supply and demand numbers and all that. Okay, they're trying to build up a node here above 50, but it's really struggling to hold on to that node. The sellers are doing a good job protecting it for now. Dab, like I said, you're asking all the wrong questions, man. There's no right or wrong. It's just personal preference. I don't think there is a great answer for any questions like that in trading, like which one is better. Better means a million different things. Yeah, I think gold and oil compared to like something like ES or NASDAQ, they move a bit more on overnight, London session, etc., because they're global assets that are traded basically 24/7. Whereas like ES, NASDAQ, they move based on equities that have time windows. No, I don't trade everything that I do analysis on. I mainly just trade ES. I just keep an eye on most things. I trade crypto long term. We have long term positions in Bitcoin, Ethereum. I don't trade anything short term besides basic ES. Right now, we are just building up this POC node, unfortunately, so we're just chopping up. We need to see a higher high above 52 for those initiative traders to take over, possibly turning into a bit of a vertical chop after that. Well, it depends on what you're asking, Prezi. Are you saying that you trade the ETFs, like you trade SPY and Qs instead of futures? And you're asking whether you should look at futures as like your guide, I guess you would say? I think if you're actively trading SPY and Qs, you don't 100% of the time need to look at the futures. But I think the futures are more accurate because they have much more data. Like they're damn near traded 24/7. So you're basically looking at the same thing, but you're looking at the same thing with way more data. Keep an eye on VWAP here, back to 45. Failing that inverse head and shoulders breakout, which would be that neckline at 22,000. No, I don't trade metals. When I do my metals analysis, it's just for you guys on stream. I don't really invest in gold or silver. Every now and then we do. We did some sector plays way back, mostly a couple of years ago. We did lithium plays, we had gold plays, silver plays. This is ATAS, Luis. ATAS. There's a free trial in the description below. Yeah, I think if you're trading the ETFs very actively, you understand their patterns. You're basically just watching the futures. You're just watching them in a smaller window. You're watching them on a cash profile. So I think that's perfectly fine if you're used to that. I think it's just a bonus if you start watching the futures as like as an assistant. Gives you a little bit of more data. VWAP buyers still here, bouncing off VWAP almost immediately. Let's see if they can hold this breakout above 22,000 here. Back to our daily open. Well, you're seeing exactly what we talked about earlier this week. The large tape was pretty much non-existent. They were waiting on that CPI data. And look at how many large orders we're getting today. This entire tape is anything above 100 contracts. And if it's highlighted like pinkish purple, it's over 5. I thought it was over 500. It might be 400 actually. Because that one's 400. Yeah, it might be 400. But yeah, if it's highlighted, it just means it's pretty big. That's what's known as a market profile, and there's just a normal volume profile next to it. Okay, we are breaking this inverse head and shoulders here. Let's see if we can hold value up here. The tape is decently red. You're not holding too many buyers up here. Yeah, you just have those sellers we've been talking about on the higher time frames. It seems like there's some sellers that are just trying to hold you down. They're not holding you down very much. You're obviously breaking out of them. But if you guys are trading these days, you know what I mean. Like if you guys traded this week, we had a lot of responsive sell pressure just pushing you down. Every time you tried to go up, it would just push you back down. Now, if you look at it on the daily, you can't see that. So swing traders don't really know what I'm talking about. But if you guys are day traders or scalpers, you 100% know what I'm talking about. Those responsive sellers were slapping you down the entire week. How's our volume? 144? What was our volume yesterday? Our opening volume was 88. Yeah, so our opening volume is damn near double. Yeah, this week has been pretty hard to get those extended targets, like those trailing targets. You definitely needed to go for the shorter targets. So if you're used to having like a normal target and then a trail, you're not really getting that trail this week. A lot of the trails have been broken. Unless your trail is for rotations. The rotations were pretty good. Okay, we broke the inverse head and shoulders. Now looking for a vertical chop, so it needs to hold above these EMAs. One thing to look at is our daily volatility has been very low compared to obviously what it was. So our average volatility is about 600 on NASDAQ on the daily. And our current volatility is 300. We're about 50% lower than our average. Same thing on ES. And typically when you have this very low volatility, the very stable volatility, it kind of looks like this, where you have those pretty small days, but it's kind of overall keeping that same direction. Because typically when you're changing directions, like we can see here, like we can see here, like we can see here, when you have those change in trends, the volatility spikes. So like right here, our volatility is spiking. Right here, our volatility is spiking. So typically when you have those big shifts in momentum, it's going to shift the volatility. It's going to spike the volatility. We don't really have that volatility spike right now, so it's just kind of it's just keeping the same path. Yeah, that was just ATR, just standard volatility. This is a paid Apex account. I use a Rhythmic account for my data. So it's one of my Apex prop accounts. If you want to tie it to Addis, you can use TradeAway, but you got to go through a bunch of bullshit. If you want to use Addis, just sign up for the Rhythmic account. The Rhythmic account, you literally just put in your login and you're done. Okay, going back into that vertical chop here, tape is turning pretty green. It needs to hold above 55. Looking for 75 if it does continue. Forgot to put the poll up. If you guys enjoy the content, hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe. Not looking great on NASDAQ. NASDAQ not getting too many buyers up here. You could say that this is a very large VWAP trap. We're bouncing off VWAP, we're breaking through VWAP, but our delta is very weak. So unless they start flipping that delta pretty soon, probably going to come back down on NASDAQ. We need some more delta here. No, not through Apex. If you're using Rhythmic, it's just your sign-in. It's all the same sign-in. Any Apex account, or sorry, any Rhythmic account will work for data on Addis. Okay, so right here is the full rotation, so you could target that if you were in a long from that POC bounce. We don't really have a lot above us here, so the next target would be that overnight high at 75, and then we still don't have a lot until we get to like 100. So right here, 75 and 100. NASDAQ, just follow our trade plan, looking for 133. This is that vertical chop I was talking about earlier, so keep an eye on those EMAs. Decently aggressive. It is holding on to the ADMA. This all started from that bull div. That bull div is still in effect here. You haven't really gotten out of that trade. There's no like significant pullback. It almost broke that trade, but it bounced off VWAP. You want to see him? Yeah, Salvio, if you look at my order flow playlist, it's not the first three-part series, it's the next three-part series. I did that one on NinjaTrader way back in the day. I think it was like a couple of years ago. I believe in those videos that I go over my settings. Yeah, it's in my order flow playlist. Just look for the ones that are NinjaTrader. The first few videos are on Addis. I just realized this Friday is Friday the 13th. Okay, still continuing to hold this upper node here, upper node at 58, a lot of bullish delta above that node. They do not want to lose that node at this point because, like I said, that delta will get trapped. They need to hold above this 58 node, still looking for around 75. Just keep an eye on the tape. We'll see if there's any consistent sell pressure coming in. There's a decent amount right now. They like selling that 60 area. There's not like a very simple way to start my teaching material. A lot of my teaching stuff is a little bit advanced. I do have it broken down into different playlists. So I would just recommend taking a look at my playlist, see what you want to learn. Like if you want to learn more about volume profile, then obviously I would start with the volume profile playlist. If you want to learn more about like trade setups, I would start with the playbook series. If you want to learn just like basic concepts, then the how to trade playlist is where you're going to find like the standard trading concepts like accumulation, distribution, how to find support and resistance levels, all that stuff. Yeah, it just depends on where you are in your trading and what you're trying to learn. I would just take a look at my playlist and see which one is kind of where you are right now as a trader. And highly recommend my shorts. I've been putting out a lot of shorts, not recently, but we put out a lot like a month or two ago. The shorts are just little 1 to 3 minute videos going over different concepts. I still have a backlog of a few of those. I think I have like 5 or 10 that I still need to upload. But I haven't made any new ones recently. In the recap videos, I've been putting the recap videos out every single trading day. And the way that I'm making the recap videos is they're basically teaching videos. I'm talking about different setups that happened throughout the day. So I highly recommend you guys watch the recaps. Even if you don't care about what happened in the day price-wise, I would take a look at the video for the concepts that we're talking about, the different setups we're talking about. Like yesterday, we talked about the vertical distribution and the rotation trades. So instead of just using them as like a recap of, hey guys, this is what happened today, I'm using them more as a teaching video, and I'm teaching the concepts that happened on that day. So it's not time sensitive. You don't have to watch it the same day. You can go back and watch it like a week later, and you'll still learn from those videos. Which is why I'm not putting the date in the titles, because it doesn't really matter when you watch them. Well, that's because they're not live backpacking. The only videos you're going to find in the live section are the live streams. You guys like the recaps? I'm glad you like them. Yeah, they've been doing pretty good on the channel. I'm glad you guys are enjoying them. Backpacking, I don't want to call you out, but there's no way you looked all over because you just got to press this button, man. This is right here on videos. It's only one press away. I don't title them like recaps, or I don't title them like with the date or anything like that. I just post them every single day. When did we start these? We started these... I think it was this one. I think the VWAP one was our very first one. So the VWAP one was our very first one. Then we had rotations and rollovers. We had a rollover top one, We had a delta trend one. Pretty much every single video since the VWAP one, except for the trade plan. The trade plan was the summary of markets that I put out on Sunday. But every other video after, these are all recaps. All right, 30-minute close coming up in less than 1 minute. Keep an eye on where this closes. If this does close well above that 59 level, it will create single prints going down to 59. If you posted your username under that video, I believe I gave access to all those people already, unless I missed your comment. Let me double check. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I gave access to everyone that requested it on that video. So just check your invite-only scripts on TradingView. No, I don't believe I use aggregated. I don't think so. Okay, we did form a couple of single prints here. It needs to go down a few points, and it will repair it. Just needs to stab down like one time. That's funny, AD. Andreas, I don't really think like that. So I'm not like predicting if it's going to be higher day or not. We'll just see how the buy pressure comes in when it gets there. You don't want to predict too much in your trading. You want to be more reactive. The single print is highlighted right here. So if it ever forms single prints, they'll be highlighted yellow. They're not on the middle chart. I'm just marking them out with a line, just so I can see where it is. Okay, there it is. Single print filled in. So was this pullback just to fill in the single print, or is it actually going down? We'll see if the sell pressure holds here. No, I didn't change my clusters. I just made them a little bit bigger. When I was watching my recap back yesterday, I noticed they're pretty hard to see. I was thinking about changing the colors or something, but it would just be too distracting. That's probably about as good as they're going to get. All right, we are in a vertical distribution here, holding on to that 24 EMA. As long as that holds, it will continue. We are looking for 75 or anywhere near that overnight high. What's the overnight high on NQ? I think it's 130 something. Yeah, 100, basically anywhere around 100. Do we have any pivots we need to keep an eye on here? Pivot at 71. We just took out a pivot at 60. Other pivot at 60. One minute pivot at 66. We'll keep an eye on that. So here's that bull div that I was showing you guys earlier. And you will see this decently often, where you try to put in a pivot, you try to put in like a bottom on the Momo, and then it breaks that bottom, but that bottom turns into a bull div. So always double check if you're breaking a level like that. Is it giving you a bull div? You said you posted your name last night. It's not showing up on my end. You can post it in the YouTube chat if you want, but I do not see it on the comments. If you posted it as like a link, then it's just going to get deleted. That's probably why. A bull div is short for bullish divergence. It means when the price and the whatever oscillator you're using, the momentum, whatever it is, they're going in different directions, basically. They're diverging from each other. So one of them is putting in a lower low, the other one is not. Failing to break this 30-minute high here. 30-minute high showing weakness. It's a pretty new candle. We've got plenty of time to fix that problem. But right now it is failing to break that high, which is causing a poor high there. Not exactly a rollover top, but the momentum is definitely starting to roll over. We'll see if it can hold on to the 24. Well, that indicator that I just showed, Martin, that's the one that I use. It's called the Momo, because the Momo is short for momentum. No, bull div is not a term that I created. That is just a trading term. That goes to literally any oscillator. Yeah, the Momo is my custom indicator. Yep. It's on TradingView. Good morning, Yusa. Putting in an upper node here at 61, so far the sellers are controlling this node, but until they lose that 24, it doesn't really matter. As long as that 24 EMA holds, then it's going to continue. And this is kind of what I was talking about earlier with the liquidity being so good. It causes a very sticky price action where it's hard to leave these nodes. Once it finds a node that it likes, it kind of glues itself to it. This is an extremely common CPI pattern, which I'm going to talk about in the recap. We talked about it in the morning on the trade plan. It really likes to pull back and retrace into the CPI print. So when you have like a CPI spike and you start the day up here, it likes to come down and retest that CPI, like wherever the CPI started. If it's a really strong CPI, and like let's say this is like 100 points, it doesn't have to come all the way back down. As long as it retests like the halfway point or just a big chunk of it, then it can go higher. Today, the CPI was pretty weak as far as the candle goes. The data was actually very strong. But as far as the candle goes, it was pretty weak. So it was pretty easy to retrace the entire thing. But yeah, I would not get used to this. Do not get used to how slow today is. CPI days are typically very fast, very choppy, very volatile. They like to hunt a lot of liquidity during CPI days. This is kind of out of the ordinary. All right, trying to lose that 24 EMA. Let's see if they can actually hold sell pressure below 60 here. The tape is fairly red for now. On this rebound back into 61, they do not want to see significant buy pressure if it even makes it back there. Like I said earlier, not exactly a rollover top, just kind of rolling over in momentum. Initiative sellers very weak below 58, basically non-existent. They like 59 and 60 though. They keep selling 59. Little snapshot of the markets. Yields are up. The bond yields are down 0.7%. Dollars down slightly. Euros up slightly. USD JPY is flat. Bitcoin's up about 0.4. Gold is up about 0.4. All right, here's that rebound. Do they find a lot of sell pressure at 61 here? So far, the tape is pretty green. Yeah, they could be shifting the POC. They could be shifting it to the upper node. Very common on these capital B days where you have two major nodes kind of fighting back and forth. Pretty close to shifting the POC. If it gets even like a couple of block trades here, it might shift. This volume is falling off a cliff unless the second half of the candle starts to spike here. Went from 91,000, only trading 38 here. You still have about 12 minutes left. All right, here is that poor high. Needs like one more point. Still resting on that poor high. Needs to go up a little bit more. I think it's like literally one tick. Definitely not a good look here that they're stalling to find that many. Let me rephrase. They're really struggling to find buyers even a few ticks above that high. Not even enough to repair the poor high into what level? Let me see here. Like 65 to 66 should have repaired that level. So a bit of a double top here. Yeah, that's a massive lack in buy volume there. It's a big failure. Let's see if it can stay below that 24. Causing a little bit of a 30-minute sweep now. Volume's still looking pretty low here. Only 10 minutes left, and we're only half the volume of the last candle. We are definitely in a vertical distribution because it keeps giving you signals that it wants to go down. You're really struggling to find buyers, you're rolling over in momentum, you're causing sweeps, and you're still holding on to that 24, so it doesn't care right now. It's on 8 ticks, which is 2 points. Actually surprised we haven't shifted the POC to this upward node. It's liking this node so much. The reason it hasn't shifted, once again, our volume going down by about 50% from that last candle. dropping rapidly. First candle of the day, 144,000 contracts, 91,000, now down to about 50,000. Should be a little over 50 once it closes. Hey, Cotton, have a good day. Let me take a look how it fell off yesterday. Where is the open here? Looks like we were trading about a 50K average, except for the news candles. Yeah, about a 50 to 40K average. Bit of a spike into the close. So we're trading about the average of yesterday. We were definitely above average on the first few candles. Here's that poor high possibly being repaired. Using this node as a launch pad. Well, if you watched my recap yesterday, we talked about these vertical distributions. Here's that 24 EMA doing a fantastic job. That inverse head and shoulders ended up being really clean as well on NQ. So since we broke that neckline of that inverse head and shoulders, we have been holding the 24. Wasn't as clean on ES, it was more of a bull div. But since the bull div, we bounced off VWAP, and now 24 EMA the entire way up. So you basically only needed a 24 EMA for most of the morning session here. Poor high repaired. So now we do not have those matching TPOs. We have that proper tail for now. If this does pull back, just keep an eye on that node at 61, possibly shifting that POC up. Hey, Patriot, have a good day, man. Just not really seeing any consistent sell pressure. We had some at the start of the day, which fell off rapidly. You see the volume just kind of collapsed. You had a little bit more back into VWAP. And then we had a little bit there where it tried to push down on that 60 node. That was right here. Everything else has been pretty consistent buy pressure. Oh yeah, you would definitely expect a perma bull day if the CPI was that good. And I'm actually very surprised the CPI wasn't up here already. I was expecting it to open up around like 6,100. Yet again, seeing a consistent failure of the initiative buyers. Initiative buyers trying to push this high here at 63, falling off rapidly. Should be flying. Yeah, with the CPI and the China trade deal, you would expect it to be flying for sure. There's the POC shift. POC shift into 61. The yellow line is the POC. So the POC was 45, now it's up to 60. Just keep it on the 24 EMA. I know I sound like a broken record, but it's literally the only line you needed pretty much the entire day. Even on the sell-off, it failed it damn near to the tick. This vertical distribution continues. Pretty close to our breakout target. Breakout target is 75. Yes, you could say that's a bear div technically because price is rising, but delta's going down. But I don't look for bear divs during a vertical distribution because they are extremely common and they almost never work. The vertical distribution can continue for a very long time, even if it has a divergence. You can use it on any time frame, 2013. It's just a moving average. Is what because of limit orders. First retest the POC, so far holding bullishly. They back tested it and bought off of it. Some buyers coming in at 62. Yeah, this move, the vertical distribution, it destroys a lot of traders. If you don't know how to trade this pattern, it melts a lot of people. Because it's fantastic at creating all these scenarios that look good for shorts. Like we had a sweep earlier, we had a couple of failures on the high where you broke out, didn't really find any buyers, came back down. It does a fantastic job getting sellers to get trapped, and then it just slowly bleeds them out. That's why it's so important to keep an eye on the market structure. Are we still making higher highs? Are we still making higher lows? Are we still respecting the EMAs, right? Typically, a vertical distribution keeps bouncing off somewhere around the 20s. Typically around 20 to 30. I like the 24. It's nice in the middle. But yeah, usually any EMAs around 20, 25, 30, whatever it may be. Doesn't have to be exact. That's usually about where it's bouncing. I don't really know how to like define the vertical distribution. It's just like literally what you're seeing right now. Like this is a prime example. When you're going up, but it's not doing so in like a very clean way, a very obvious way. It's constantly giving you short signals, but they're not working. It's constantly chopping up. It's just a very choppy uptrend. instead of a very clean uptrend. I say it's a distribution because if you think about why it's causing that pattern, like what's causing that pattern, it's probably because there's so much profit taking fighting against the uptrend. So you probably have a lot of sellers that are profit taking. They're not actually selling to open their positions. Or you could possibly have like what we've been seeing all week where we have these really large sellers trying to hold us down. So maybe they're just kind of like laddering into positions or whatever it may be. I don't know. I don't really care about the why too much. But if you had to think about why it's happening, that's kind of what I would say. It's probably a lot of profit taking. Yeah, vertical distributions have been extremely common. I mean, I literally just recapped it yesterday. I went over all these ways to trade it yesterday. And I think we had one earlier this week as well. I mean, damn near like every day. It's a very common, I mean, we're literally doing it on the daily. That's why it's so common on these low time frames, because we're quite literally doing it on the daily right now. Look at the daily. The daily's like the same thing. Like if this was a 1 minute chart, the 24 EMA would be right below these candles, right? And we would be in that vertical chop where we keep kind of chopping up and come back down, but eventually we go back up anyway. As a seller, you need to learn how to just sit out of these positions, or you need to learn to trade them bullishly. One of the ways that I talk about in my tutoring sessions on how to trade this, I forget who came up with this concept in one of these older trading books. It might have been Dalton. I don't remember. But there was a concept of if you have a move like this that is just constantly grinding in one direction and you feel like you missed out on the trade, you have to ask yourself, would you be in the trade? Like if you had your proper entry, would you still be in this trade? And if you would still be in the trade, let's say you had a runner, of like a third of your position, so you'd have one contract left maybe, right? If you would still be in this trade with a third of your position, then if you want to enter the trade late, you should only enter the trade with whatever your position that you would still have, not a full-size position. I'll come back to this in a second. We have a little bit of sell pressure finally. Let's see if we can stay below the 24. A lot of sell pressure, actually. Big sell pressure. Here's some headlines coming out. Lutnick said the tariff levels will not change. So just a couple of bots selling the tariff headline. Lutnick said that China tariff levels will not change from here because they have agreed on that deal. Is that Dalton? Yeah. Yeah, so going back to that is just if you would still be in a trade with your runner, then if you want to take that trade late, you should only be entering with your runner, not with your full size. So for example, when we pull back and retest the 24, if you would be using that 24 as like your trailing stop loss, as long as it's protecting the 24, you can get in that trade with your trailing size and then hold that trade until you would technically be out of that trade. Here's VWAP, 52. VWAP at 49 coming up as well. 985 on NASDAQ. These are tariff headlines leading to this sell-off. And this is the beauty of the vertical distribution pattern, is it does this where it entices the sellers all day. And it fails to go down every time. Bear div fails. Sweeps fail. Sell pressure just fails, right? until there's a catalyst. And right now there is a catalyst. The catalyst is the tariff headline. And when there is a catalyst, it finally has that ridiculous sell pressure, that elevator down, right? So you have the stairs up, very slow grind, walking up the stairs, and then you have the elevator down. And this is what makes the vertical distribution pattern so hard to trade, because you think that every time there's a sell signal coming in, that it's going to give you that elevator down. And most of the time, like 7 out of 10 times, it does not give you the elevator down. It chops you out. So you have that playing in the back of your head. You think that you're going to get that sell off every single time you press the sell button. And you just don't get it. Ludnick said, we are not going to give China our best chips, so the chip restrictions are still intact. Holding VWAP to the tick on NASDAQ. You broke through it by a couple of ticks on ES, so VWAP holding pretty strong here. Who tweeted? I mean, you name it. Anybody who covers financial news tweeted it. My entire timeline's reposting it. Is this pattern still just a distribution? Well, it was until that. So we had that vertical chop, vertical chop, vertical chop. Once you lose the 24, it's kind of dead. So now we have to see if it puts in lower highs here. So we have the lower low. Lower low is very obvious. When it starts to put in that curl, we talked about that on the recap video. I think it was actually not the one yesterday. I think it was 2 days ago. Where we have that curling pattern. Those fractals, right? Now we have to see that lower high come in here. Now, whoever asked about the bear div earlier, you're probably like, well, he said bear divs don't work on vertical distributions, and it worked that time. Yes, it did work that time. It worked that time because of a headline. I'd say like 7 out of 10 times it's not going to work. You're playing a probability game. And the probability is not in your favor on vertical distributions. Very hard to time. You almost always know. It's like a single print, right? The single prints tell you they're going to get filled. That's not the hard part. The hard part is when are they going to get filled? It's like a gap, right? The gaps, you know they're going to get filled. It's just when. When are they going to get filled? Same thing with the vertical distribution. You know it's going to go down eventually. You just don't know when. You traded it, but you got stopped out 3 times, and there you go. That's exactly how the vertical distribution works. You get stopped out pretty much all day if you're shorting it, but then you'll get that one big sell-off. The question is, does that one big sell-off pay for all your losses? If the answer is always yes, and you can make back your losses, then obviously you know what you're doing. You can trade that pattern. I'd say for most people the answer is no. Okay, here is that bear flag into the 24 EMA. 24 EMA holding bearishly. Yeah, this pattern is the probably number one pattern at killing short bias traders because it always entices you. It gives you a couple of signals that you might want to trade it to the downside. Starting to see what we've been seeing the past couple of weeks where those headlines give you a giant reaction and that reaction turns out to be an overreaction. We saw that yesterday. Yesterday was a great example of that. Where was it? It was right here. Look at this headline reaction. Dropped all the way down and then came all the way back. Really hard to trust headlines right now. Not the headline itself, but trusting the move. Like that old saying in trading, don't trust the first move. That's pretty true right now. I mean, look at the CPI. The CPI move was even not trusted right away, which is usually the case. All right, here's the 24 EMA. Are we going to hold it and put a lower high below it? So far, the buy pressure is pretty decent at 60. Back into that POC node, we did leave open a poor high. It would need 2 points above that high of day to repair. Why it's always good to have a timeline, a news feed, I guess I should say. Because when you see moves like that, you want to think they're technical, but they're not technical. They're just happening because of the news. It's definitely not a most people thing, Mauricio. It's definitely a minority. VWAP is probably the most used indicator in all of trading. VWAP is an indicator that just like across the board is being used by pretty much everybody. And the beautiful thing about VWAP is for the most part, it's the same level no matter what. Doesn't matter if you're a scalper, a day trader, or whatever. Doesn't matter if you're on a 1 minute, a 5 minute, a 10 minute, 15. VWAP is a give or take a point or two, few points maybe. Pretty much the same level. That's what makes it so powerful. It's probably the most overlapping indicator. It overlaps into pretty much every single field of trading. The other two indicators that are probably the most used are probably RSI and MACD. Those are like the newbie indicators that everyone gets. Like, if you're getting into trading and you look up indicators, those are like the first two that show up. It's like RSI, MACD, Bollinger Bands. And they're not newbie in a sense where like they're not good, where you can't use them if you're more advanced, but they're definitely newbie in the sense that they're the first things that you get acclimated to. Yeah, crypto is funny. Crypto goes through phases. Crypto is whatever is popular on crypto Twitter or like the social media. If you were trading crypto back in 2017, 2018, we used to joke about this all the time. By the way, we're curling off of the 24. Let's see if we can stay below 60 here. But yeah, back in those days, all of us in the crypto community used to joke that, like, oh, the crypto traders found out what Ichimoku is, or they found out what moon phases are, or whatever the flavor of the week was. Because you would start seeing everybody's charts on crypto Twitter or whatever the social media was, and they would just be flooding with those indicators, like the guppies and the Ichimokus. It's herd mentality. Crypto is very much a herd sheep mentality market. Monkey see, monkey do. Then the crypto traders found out about volume profile and market profile and order flow, and you had exo charts that started blowing up. Then you had the liquidity stuff start coming in with I forget what that website was called that had like the colorful lines. Then you had AGGR come out. Any advice on picking platforms? For the most part, nowadays, it's just personal preference. They all pretty much offer the same thing. They just have different UIs. Some are easier to use than others. I think Addis is by far my favorite. The UI is the cleanest. Everything just makes sense. No, I didn't trade futures on Exo. I traded them way back in the day when they were beta testing. I don't think they had futures at the time. I have not used them in like 5+ years. My path of platforms started out on like NinjaTrader, Tradeovate way back in the day. NinjaTrader's been around for forever, basically. Thinkorswim was in there kind of in the beginning as well. Probably some other ones I'm forgetting about. And then I moved on to like what was it after that? I think it was like ExoCharts, Quant Tower. There was one other one that I keep forgetting. It was a crypto one. I think it was called Trading Light or something like that. I think Trading Light is what it was. I wonder if they're still around. Then I moved on back to NT, and then back to Addis, or to Addis, I should say. And we've been on Addis for the past couple of years. I think it's like a year and a half, 2 years maybe. Yeah, I have no reason to go back to Exo. Addis is perfectly fine. I stopped using Exo way back in the day. I had a falling out with like their dev team. I knew a few of their devs like personally. Well, not personally, like in person, but I knew them from like crypto Twitter and stuff like that. We didn't really get along, so I just stopped using their platform for personal reasons. I didn't agree with them. I don't really hold grudges too much, but if a company or like developers or something rub me the wrong way, I'm just not going to use their platform. It's just that simple. I got you into Addis and you have no idea why it's not more popular. Yeah. I think they're getting more and more popular. I think as people are making more videos and stuff about them on like YouTube and whatnot. Right now, we're just sitting on the POC, guys. It is a coin flip area, 50-50. I would say you have a slight bearish bias because of the bear flag. And you can see right as I said that, sell pressure coming in. So I'd say you have a little bit of a slight bias, maybe like a 55% instead of 50. Maybe 60% now that we're seeing this sell pressure come in. Yeah, you're kind of bear flagging back into the 24 EMA. And the bear flag is holding for now. A little bit of a lower high there. Yeah, Ryan, both. You can set it up to be kind of a composite. You can kind of set it up to be like a custom time frame or however you want it. And they also have like the drawing tools over here. They've got a bunch of volume profile tools that you can like click and drag them and stuff. All right, keep an eye on VWAP here, guys. This is that bear flag into the 24 EMA. Also a bear flag into the POC, putting in a lower high on the 1 minute, confirming that sell pressure. Keep an eye on VWAP at 53 to 50. NASDAQ is 22,000 to 988. A rotation back to the downside goes to 42. And it goes to 950. A visible range, I believe it's one of these tools. I'm guessing it's one of these on the drawing side. Is it this one? So that one's like the box one. It's one of those tools. It has it on by default when you open up a new chart. And I always just turn it off. It might be the anchored one. Yeah, I don't think it's a I don't think it's an indicator. I think it's just on the toolbar. Okay, putting in a strong note at 56 here, kind of in a weird spot. Bouncing a little bit early here. Possibly putting in a higher low above VWAP. I'd say you're still bearish until you get back above that prior high. It is definitely trying to put in a higher low here. Doesn't seem to be succeeding for now. Keep an eye on this node here at 57. Buyers are trying to protect it. Hey, Ryder, have a good day, man. Don't forget we have a bond auction at 1 p.m. The bond market is pretty fragile right now, so might be decent impact. Still trying to build up that 56 node here. A really weird node. It's basically the open of the day. All right, here comes that VWAP target for that bear flag. You're basically trading this the same way you would trade a bear flag into VWAP. It's just a bear flag into the 24 EMA instead. Below VWAP, the value low is the obvious level. You have a little bit of a trend forming here, so it wants to target that 30-minute low. You swept that high, broke that 30-minute low. Now it's trying to break that prior 30-minute low. I think it just does that by default, Ryan. Like, I already have a line that shows my day. Hard to see, but there's a line right here. Pretty sure that's just a default thing. Just try them out, dude. Just sign up for the trial and click around. I'm sure all your questions will be answered in their free trial. There's not really anything that I'm like, hey, can I do this? And I went to go try to do it, and I couldn't do it. Addis pretty much does everything that you would, all the basic stuff that you would want to do for order flow trading. Yeah, it's not like it's Sierra charts. It's not going to take you a week. It took me like literally less than an hour to replicate my charts from NT. Their UI is very clean. You should not struggle with Addis. I don't think I've had many people in our community struggle with Addis. They've figured it out pretty quickly. I've coded strategies on TradingView, not on anything else. I only know Pine script. And I'm not in my coding era right now. I'm not coding at the moment. Coding is a thing that I really have to put everything else aside. I have to stop making videos. I have to stop doing pretty much anything else. Just streaming and trading and coding. That's pretty much it. Coding takes a lot of time, a lot of mental power. I wouldn't really call myself a coder. I learned to code so I could make my indicators and just benefit my trading. But I don't have like years and years of experience coding. I've basically set out, or I set out and I made all the indicators that I wanted in my trading. And I don't really have a desire to make any more. All the indicators that I needed for my trading, I've already built. And I've actually tried a couple of times to go out and make other indicators. And I've realized about halfway through that I'm just making an indicator that I already have, or that one of my indicators that I've already coded does better. So I've wasted a lot of time. I've done that a few times where I've put a lot of hours into coding something, and I've tested it against my Momo or tested it against my bots or my OTS, whatever it may be. And it's just a worse version of those indicators. So I don't bother wasting my time anymore. I wanted an indicator that kind of does all the oscillator things in one. I built the Momo. I wanted an indicator that finds like pivot levels based on volume and momentum shifts. I built the OTS. I wanted an indicator that helps me stay in my trailing trades, like the bots, like holding onto the trails, holding onto the trends as long as possible. I built the bots, right? I wanted an indicator based on volatility. I built the auto squeeze. I mean, you name it, I've built it. My style of trading is what am I looking for? The Momo and the OTS, the Oasis Trading Suite. Those two indicators, out of all the indicators I've built, those two perfectly tie into my style of trading. Because like I always tell you guys, if I had to say like one sentence for my style, it's trading the shifts in momentum, right? And the Momo has those shadings. I talked about that. I think it was, I don't think it was yesterday's recap. I think it was 2 days ago. It was one of the recaps this week. Might have been Monday. But the Momo kind of gives me those extreme levels, like when you're starting to kind of top out or bottom out. And then the OTS is a great addition to that because it gives me the pivot levels when you are finally topping and bottoming out and you're kind of pivoting and you're shifting that momentum from one side to the other. So those two indicators were really all I needed. And then I just kind of threw on a few bonuses after that. I coded a few different things after that. But yeah, we built those back in like 2018 and we have not changed them like at all. Like their formulas are exactly the same. So they are tried and tested for many years. No, my indicators are not free. I have a few indicators I believe that I made for free. There's some open source ones. But not our Discord ones. Our Discord ones are paid. You can get a trial if you sign up with our Apex partnership. So if you use our code for Apex and you would like a trial on the indicators, you just send me an email. Just let me know, hey, I signed up with your code. Here's my receipt. As long as it has like the invoice number, just send me your TradingView username. And I can get you guys added to the Momo, the OTS, and the bots as well. Putting in a higher low off of VWAP, like we said earlier. All of my coding is in PineScript. And that was back when PineScript really sucked. If you guys are coding on TradingView now, it's actually pretty damn good. It's damn near an exact coding terminal as you would see with anything like Python, right? But back when I was coding in like version 2, version 3, it was pretty bad. It's pretty damn good now. I think they're in like version 6, I think. Either 6 or 7. Okay, higher low being invalidated here. If we can hold value below 54, still looking to continue into VWAP and continue into that value low. Our trade has not changed at all here. That bear flag into the 24 EMA is still respecting the 24 until you start seeing significant buy pressure back above that 24. There's nothing really threatening this trade. Yeah, I believe Addis and NinjaTrader are in C#. I believe it's called. It's pretty advanced. If you want to get into coding indicators, I would start on TradingView. TradingView is much easier. Hey, Olive, have a good day, man. We'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, like I said, TradingView is actually really good now. Their terminal is fantastic. It like helps you code, like it finishes easy lines for you. Their coding database, like with their I don't know what you would call it. Database is basically the best word. Yeah, like a library. They've got a good library for like how to code basic things. They have a ton of open source indicators, which that doesn't mean go and steal their stuff. But if you need to code like a certain thing and you're like, how the hell do I code this? You can look up indicators that are similar and see how they code it. And then there you go. You have a good example, right? But yeah, don't just rip from people on open source. That's not what open source is for. But for good examples, they have a massive library of open source. I think you can code on their free version. I don't even think you need a paid version, but I'm not sure. But yeah, if you guys know how to code Python, PineScript is very, very similar to Python. I think that's the closest. Very logic-based. Yeah, I just learned from, I had a coding buddy who coded the Momo for me. So after that, I wanted to learn how to code my own indicators. So I would just ask him like here and there, like questions on how to code certain things. And then I would do what I said. I looked at the library, I looked at the open source, just trial and error over and over and over and over again. Just a lot of trial and error until I found stuff that worked. And you can't see my code because my code is hidden for the most part. I've got a couple of open source indicators that you can see, and you can see that my code is not very clean. If a experienced coder looked at my code, he would probably throw up, right? My code is very sloppy, but it gets the job done. I'm not doing a lot of analysis right now because there's nothing really to say. I've already said what I have to say. You're looking for VWAP. You're looking for the value low. You're trending down. As long as that 24 EMA is being respected, you don't really give a shit what happens here. No, my indicators, like I said, they are not free. They're on the website by themselves. They're Discord. If you guys are in Discord, you have access. If you're using our Apex partnership, you have access. And then every now and then I give out free trials. I did a free trial on one of our recap videos recently. Yeah, probably the easiest way to get access to it is Discord and Apex. If you guys use our code on Apex, I give you access to the indicators to hopefully get you guys funded, help you guys get funded. I think a lot of people ignore my indicators because I don't show them on stream anymore. Because I just got tired of explaining them every single day. But I have been giving you guys more tips and tricks throughout the streams and throughout the recaps, and I'll try to do that more and more in the future. And I do need to remake those teaching videos for the indicators as well, so that's on the that's on our schedule. We'll have those videos remade in the next few months here. But yeah, I used to show them on stream, basically like how I showed this order flow now. But yeah, it just became a thing. Like every single stream, I'd have to explain the indicator over and over again. Just took up the entire stream. So now they're on this monitor. You can't see it, but I have a mounted monitor. This is where I keep all my indicators. So like this one, I keep pulling down to show you guys. This is where I have my Momo and OTS. The Momo doesn't normally look like this. I just had it colored like this to make it easier to explain. And then these blue lines and the orange lines, that's from the OTS. And the dotted line is from the OTS as well. And what you can also do is you can turn on the bar colors for the OTS if you wanted to override your candle coloring. So you can have it candle color based on the formula, which is basically just based on trend. So if you want something to override your candles, which a lot of people don't like, you can have that turned on. I know a lot of people don't like candle overriding. Yeah, I'd say if you're just getting started with my indicators, I would recommend starting on the OTS. The OTS is very simple. You can learn the OTS in like a day. And I would slowly work into the Momo. The Momo is probably the strongest indicator that I've built. But it is the most complicated. The reason it's complicated is it was built to be a all-in-one oscillator. So there's so many oscillators that people were using at the time, like MACD, RSI, CCI. I mean, you name it. Just a bunch of oscillators. So I built it so that it kind of does all the best things that they do in one indicator. It does the divergence, it does the trend, it does the momentum, it does the extremes. It does the multi-time frame, like comparing the short term to the long term. Yeah, like I said, just keep an eye on the recap videos. I'll give you guys some more tips and tricks throughout those recaps. Here's another tip that I'll probably bring up in the recap video. This is a common pattern you will get used to if you use the OTS. The OTS is short for Oasis Trading Suite. A very common pattern you will see is during bear flags and bull flags, you will have a pivot that was created. By the way, here's our VWAP target. VWAP target being hit, next target is the value low. 955 on NASDAQ and 43 on ES. Sorry, give me 1 second and then I'll go back to what I was saying. Here, I'll come back to this in a second. Let's pay attention here. So there's that 30-minute low. Like I said earlier, a little bit of a trend here. They wanted to break that 30-minute low, and they did. That trend is continuing. So this was our initial point that I was saying. If it breaks that level, then that trade is dead. And obviously that has trailed down quite a bit since then. So that would have been on this high here, and then now like on this high. Probably a little bit higher because of the 24 EMA, but somewhere around there. Yeah, the 1 minute chart, or sorry, the Momo chart I was just showing, that was the 1 minute. I typically have it in a 4-way screen, but when I'm explaining stuff to you guys, I just show one screen. I typically have it on like a 1 minute, 5 minute, 15 or 30, and then like a 1 hour or like a daily. Like I just have multiple time frames normally. But when I'm explaining it, I just show you one to make it easy. Okay, real quick, I'll explain what I was just saying. So very common pattern you'll get used to if you're watching the OTS is when you have a bear flag or a bull flag, that move down, that flagpole, will typically have a pivot. So right now we have that flagpole down, that move down, and it has a pivot. The blue candle is the pivot. And typically what will happen is if it turns into a bear flag, which this one did, you want to target a retest of that pivot. So like right here, that blue pivot was right here on 51. We had that lower high, so that bear flag was confirmed. You broke the low right there. So then the trail, the little dots right here, it just slowly pushes you down to that pivot. And then we push down, push down, push down, boom, pivot right there. Very common. You'll see that on a bear flag and a bull flag almost every time. The formula is pretty good at catching those. Do we have a good bull flag example recently? We would have had a bull flag example if the CPI ended up going up, but it didn't. I don't think we have a really good bull flag recently. I'd probably have to look at a higher time frame. Kind of like right here, where we have a pivot on the high, and then you have that little bull flag down, and then you bounce back into it. Kind of similar to that. Yeah, very common. If you get used to using the OTS, you'll see that pattern very often. Do you mean 500 or do you mean 50? 500 is way too slow. If you mean 50, I've used the 50 plenty of times. Yeah, 500 is too slow for me. Yeah, it works very well on Bitcoin. It was designed. Bitcoin was the main thing we were trading at the time. So when we designed it, it was heavily based on Bitcoin. I have a lot of traders. If you guys are on crypto Twitter, you've probably seen that indicator plenty of times. It's a pretty common indicator on crypto Twitter. There's a lot of crypto guys that still use it from back in the day. And they've been using it for years because it got popular with the crypto traders back in like 2018. So it's already been like, what, 5 years? Longer than that? 7 years? I'd say 5 to 7 years people have been using that. It's actually insane to think about. That was 7 years ago. It's by far our most used indicator, meaning member-wise. More people use the OTS than anything else. The Momo is the second one. The Momo is more complicated, though, like I said, so it's not as widely used. Okay, sorry, I was yapping, so I wasn't covering that, but there was a bull div here. You can see the bull div on the 1 minute. Very easy to see. Lower low on price, higher low on momentum. This is what I constantly say, hey guys, I think momentum is rolling over, right? When I say that, I'm almost always referring to the Momo. So our momentum is rolling over here, where it went from being extended to the downside to now we are rolling over back to the upside. Yeah, Mauricio, typically what I recommend for people is to start out on like the live stream, kind of get a taste for my style of commentating, my style of trading. Um, dive into some of the the videos, obviously. Typically the volume profile playlist, order flow playlist. Those are good places to start. The how to trade playlist is usually where I recommend people start. But most of you guys in here, you already know all that stuff. That's like my basic playlist. I think if you guys enjoy watching my content, you're already kind of an advanced trader. If you're looking at like order flow and volume profile and stuff like that, you already know most of the concepts that I teach in the how to trade playlist. But if you need like a refresher, you can go back and check that out. By the way, keep an eye on the 24 EMA here. A lot of sell pressure coming in on that 24, so the momentum is probably going to start coming down again. If they can hold that sell pressure below 54 to 55 here, it is looking like a lower low coming up. But yeah, what I was saying was you can start on my live stream, move into the videos, get a taste for some of that content, watch the shorts and all that stuff. And then when you're ready to take you to the next level, you can join the Discord because you'll already understand most of the stuff that I'm talking about in Discord. If you jump into the Discord right away, you're going to be listening to my commentary and you're going to be like, what the hell is this guy talking about? You're not going to understand a lot of the things that I say in Discord. And the Discord, like I said, comes with all the indicators, which might be a bit overwhelming. If you're still learning my content and you're trying to learn all my indicators at the same time. Which is why I took away the monthly. I took away the monthly because it's just too much. It's too much content for 1 month. Yeah, TDL, you have access to everything. So if you provided the right TradingView username when you signed with Discord, I instantly give you access to pretty much my entire catalog. So if you go into your invite-only scripts, there's going to be like, I think like 10 or 15 indicators in there. So you just look for the one that's called Oasis Trading Suite. If you don't see access, just send me a message on Discord and I can double check. Yeah, Angela, I'll show you as soon as price starts slowing down. I'll show you. Yeah, rolling upward would be a better term for that. Yeah. $30-minute low being protected here, putting in a higher low on price. Here's the NASDAQ move, Angelo. So same thing, not as easy to see. So if I show you ES, this is very easy to see. Very easy to see the bull div. Not as easy on NASDAQ. You still technically have that divergence. The momentum is going up. You also have these purple warnings. The purple warnings are kind of like, they're like bottom alerts. It's not telling you that it's bottoming. It's just telling you that it's potentially a bottom if there's like another reason to bottom, right? If there's like a value level there, if there's like a higher low or like a significant block trade, whatever, right? If you have a reason to bottom there, it's telling you that it could possibly find a bottom there. But yeah, so you have a very small increase in momentum there, and then you push down. It's a beautiful back test of that pivot. You back tested that blue pivot there a couple times, actually, right there, right there. Yeah, NASDAQ is a great example of, on the daily, we don't see a lot of pivots on the daily because the formula is very exact. There's a very certain thing that needs to happen for these pivots to come in. By the way, we're putting in another bull div here on Delta, actually. We have a Delta bull div with a higher low and a lower low. So lower low on Delta, higher low on price, indicating absorption. It shows that the seller contracts are being absorbed. But yeah, no, NASDAQ's a good example of, there's not many pivots on the daily, but they're very, very strong. We had a blue pivot here, back tested it to the absolute tick, and then you just absolutely melted. And then down here, we have an orange pivot, which I believe is like a year old. This pivot is like a year old, I think. That pivot is 2 years old. So this pivot is 2 years old, and it kind of looks like it's in the middle of nowhere. And you damn near bottom ticked that sell-off. And that's happened before, where these pivots are very old and they give you a pretty significant reaction. It happens a lot on crypto as well, which is why we have so many crypto traders using it. But yeah, the pivots aren't very common on the high time frames, but when they happen, they are very strong. So we keep an eye on that. You always want to like go through every day and at least look at the higher time frames. Just make sure you're not putting any major pivots in. You can also set alerts if you want, if you don't want to click through them. But all right, guys, I think we answered enough questions today. We are still looking for that value low as long as you're holding below the 24 EMA here. Value low, like I said earlier, let me double check. It is 43, and it is 958. So you're still looking for those value lows unless there is a significant shift in momentum, which we are not seeing. It is putting in a bull div, or at least it's trying to, but it's invalidating it. So that seller delta was being absorbed, not so much anymore. There was actually a sell wall there, sell wall for over 1,000 contracts at 50 that just got taken out. But yeah, keep an eye on the value lows. The value lows will be the final target for this move down. If it doesn't bottom there, then look for the overnight low. But all right, guys, I appreciate you being here. Be on the lookout for a recap later today, probably around the same time, maybe 5:30. If you guys are in Discord, I will be there for the rest of the day. If you guys are not in Discord, I will see you tomorrow. Hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe. If you guys want to support the channel, you can use code BREW on Apex, BREW. You can also check out Addis with the free trial down below. But all right, guys. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you tomorrow.